Welcome back to The Line. This week, a study by the Annie E. Casey Foundation was released showing that 10% of New Mexico children have had at least one parent incarcerated at some point in their lives. Only Kentucky and Indiana have higher percentages. The study detailed the trauma on children growing up without a parent or with a parent in jail, I guess same thing, including financial hardships and mental health issues especially. And Sophie, the authors of the report suggest reducing levels of incarceration for nonviolent offenders. Let's start there. That's been a big topic here in New Mexico for a long time.
For many reasons,
many
right?
Reasons, right.
Because we look at our incarceration rate and we say, you know, we've got this, now we're talking about children, but we also have the cost of imprisoning nonviolent offenders, just the financial 3 meals a day housing costs.
That's right.
We have the legal costs of appeals, et cetera. But we also now more and more are looking at the social costs. And I'll say the social costs, not just to families, but also as those individuals come out, they may or may not be employable as a result of their incarceration. They may have lost their way in terms of skills, or they may find that employers are not willing to take them on. And that creates a terrible employment problem for us in a state that already has terrible employment problems. I'm going to say too, you know, we look at where our government spends funding or where we would like it to spend funding. I'm on the board of New Mexico Friends of Foster Children, an organization that focuses on children in foster care. And what we see is that a very high portion of children in foster care have one or both parents who are incarcerated. Now, they may be in kinship guardianship situations where they're living with family members. They may be placed into foster homes that are, you know, not family members. But you know, we have a whole structure outside of the prisons to support and often not support well, unfortunately, the families of people who are incarcerated. So it goes beyond just how does it affect our schools, how does it affect our prisons, how does it affect our economy. You know, as we look at the problems in each of these systems, this is a significant factor.
Thank you for opening that up. Actually, it's much bigger than how we're actually seeing this. Phil, one of the things that hit me in the Santa Fe New Mexican reporting on the Annie Casey report was a very subtle little thing, but I think a huge one. I've heard about this before. And that is the embarrassment to the child and the stigma to the child having a parent incarcerated. In dealing with this at school, because I'm sorry, we all know kids can be very cruel. Very, very cruel. And I've heard about this where kids of incarcerated parents are really having a hard time at school. So it gets to the point about a whole community has to be involved here with healing this situation, it seems to me. What's your sense of that?
Well, I think children are going to suffer because what do you say? My mom's in jail.
Right.
You know, my dad's in prison. It's a tough one. But the bottom line is 80% of crime is committed under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And I think we've really missed the point. The point that we've missed is that the whole country, not just New Mexico, has got to take a look at rehabilitation. We've got to look at going into treatment centers versus prison and get these people into a position where they can get treated. This whole idea of this law and order, let's throw everybody in jail for 500 years for carrying a joint, is absolutely gone ridiculous. This is one point that makes me really angry because we have a lot of people have no business being in prison because they simply need to get help. And unless we can get them help, get them on the right track, and quit spending money on these monster jails and prisons because it is a money-making deal. We've got to get away from that kind of mentality and start getting these people well. And this war on drugs has created a nightmare for us. And we've got to take a look at that as well.
You know, you said these people, and this is something that I often think about. I don't think you're wrong to say that, but more and more I think, and especially through a report like this one, we recognize that these people are family members, they're neighbors. These people are people we know, or we know people who know them, and too many New Mexico families are impacted by these policies. And so it's our family, our friends, our neighbors who are these people in jail.
Absolutely.
Dee Dee, you know, it's another interesting point in this report for New Mexico Voices for Children, of course, with the people that issued it here locally, is the idea that Sophie mentioned there's a cascading set of events that happen. You can't pay your rent, you can't pay for food, you can't, you know. And again, for the child, one of the things I've learned is the child brings on a sense of guilt in themselves that somehow they are part of the problem here that caused this. You see what I mean? There's a whole thing.
Yes.
And so the idea to have something waiting for that parent when they come out of prison that combines the child with the parent and gets things whole again.
Yes.
As Phil was saying, we need to start paying for
Well,
that.
I
seems
think
to me.
KNME did a great documentary about this
Thank you
several
for saying
years
that.
ago that really showed especially women who
Yes.
have been in prison reuniting with their children.
That's right.
A very difficult proposition, and I feel the worst for the women and their families because they are usually drug addicted, are in jail for prolonged periods for writing bad checks.
Stuck out in grants.
Or doing,
That's right.
yes, stuck out of grants where it's difficult for their family to
right.
visit them. And who bears the burden then? Often it's the grandparents
That's right.
of the children because then they are saddled at a later age with young children that they may not be equipped because of the poverty and the other factors involved with family dysfunction. They may not be equipped to care for either. So it is a cascading effect. And there's PB&J has done a great job with these
group.
families as well. But there is also a tendency for some young boys to romanticize their fathers in jail, and that's a dangerous precedent as well.
Right. Daniel, one might say one does the crime, one does the time. How, and I don't think there's much argument about that except for low-level stuff as Phil and everyone else is talking about. But for significant sentences, I'm going to go to now, how do we help that for families? If someone's facing 10 years, 8 years, 12 years, something like that, do we, in your view, do we have a system in place to help families while someone's out there?
Not at all. Now, I think the question you asked is very important to look at from a couple of levels.
Okay.
The first level is, and it's important to talk about what Phil and Sophie were talking about, if that long-term sentence is based on a nonviolent drug offense, there's a problem.
Right.
There's a serious problem. There's a different conversation if that's a violent felony. We're talking rape, murder, something, armed robbery, where, something is really, those are different types of crimes, in my opinion, and we should still not forget the family.
Okay.
But we've got to be careful because in lots of cases, sometimes in cases, those violent felons probably shouldn't be part of the family anymore. Lots of times, the violent felons they don't just wake up one day and go commit this violent felony. It's far different than these nonviolent drug offenses that are overcrowding the prisons and in some cases getting longer prison terms than some violent felons. And so, yes, there's got to be a system because what we're doing, and we're not good at this, I don't think we're good at this in the United States. We're taking that nonviolent drug offender, we're putting them in a prison system, we're stripping them of any ability to get a good job when they come out. We're doing nothing to prepare them. And really what we're creating is super criminals, right? We're sending in this person who's a nonviolent drug offender and 8 years later they get out and we say, look, the only job you can get is working at the gas station, working at the car wash. So if you really want to take care of your 2 kids and pay for a house, you're going to have to sell drugs or commit a crime. And we're creating super criminals. And so I've advocated since the start of my time in the legislature, and I still advocate today, I think locking up these nonviolent drug offenders is wrong. I think we should be looking at community-based rehabilitation programs, bringing these people back into the community and doing the things that need to be done to make them productive members of society, reuniting them with their family, helping them be better mothers and fathers, and that's what we should be looking at.
Sophie, the elephant to me in this room on this is the amount of black and brown people this affects.
Yeah,
The
and-
numbers for African Americans here in New Mexico are wildly past all other groups when it comes to incarceration for low-level offenses, as
Correct.
we're talking about here. But it's not a free ride either for Hispanic people and for anybody else either.
Right, Native Americans
right.
also have a
And
high
Native Americans,
incarceration
that's
rate.
right.
And one of the things that I think that's worth noting is in New Mexico, as throughout the country, you get the justice you pay for. I mean, that sounds very cynical,
Right, but I hear ya.
but the ability to pay for a private attorney, the ability to not be one of the 80, 90, 100 cases that a single public defender is trying to work with, and our public defender system is in real flux right now. Let's put it that
way
way.
to put
It's
it.
a real challenge for the attorneys who are working in that system. They are understaffed and underfunded. And so what we're seeing is not just that people of color are disproportionately ending up in our prisons, we're seeing as well that they may not get through the system as quickly. They may not have the kind of effective legal
Mm-hmm.
counsel that they really need. And
Or
there is
advocates.
or advocates. And
Because
there's
their
a-
family
there's a
doesn't have the
direct-
ability to write the letters and do
Sure.
the things and
That's
be
right.
involved in
right.
helping that person. It's sort of, we ship them off to grants, and everybody in the family says, he'll be back in 7 to 10 years. We'll wait to see him.
Right, right. And so it's not, I don't think that we can look at that and say, well, if you are African American, if you are Hispanic or Native American, you're more likely to be committing these crimes. I think what we're seeing instead is you're less likely, as Dan has just said, to receive, to be able to afford the kind of assistance
That's right.
that's really necessary.
And you can't
Now,
back channel
but-
things the way
right,
people do it
that
here
doesn't
sometimes.
mean,
you
I mean,
know?
that does not mean, that there isn't a relationship between. Anyway,
I know what you mean, though.
winding myself into a different area,
but
yeah.
the thing that's distressing to me is that the political dialogue is still one of lock them up and throw away the key. It's all crime all the time in the legislature, sending more people to prison, and there's never the funding for the rehabilitation programs, for the diversion programs, and the mental health and.
What's
But that's
the-
not, but that's not just
what's
the,
the
that's
law?
not just the
Funding, you can
politics
pay
stuff.
for it yourself. That
That's
is,
not.
I think,
That's
part of
just
the economic issue, too.
That's not just the legislature passing this. This is what people want.
Yes.
This is what the constituents out there are saying. We want that person locked
Throw
up.
away the key.
Throw away the key. But what we're doing is, like you said, we're creating this whole new group, generation of people that are coming out that cannot even function in society. We're doing absolutely no good at these people. Especially, I'm going to say this war on drugs has created this nightmare, and this mandatory sentencing has
Mandatory minimums,
yes.
forced these judges to do
point,
what they
Phil.
have to do
Yeah.
when they shouldn't do it. I saw a guy in Georgia get 110 years for distribution of cocaine. I mean, 110 years? Are you serious?
And the truth is that there are states, unfortunately not so much here, but there are states where sort of diversion programs are working, where re-entry programs are working. Often, though, they're nonprofits that are putting these together, the community's putting it together. There was a New York Times Magazine article about a year ago about a fantastic but dramatically underfunded program in which former prisoners help prisoners who are newly out of prison get back into the community, figure out basics like, I've been incarcerated for 12 years. I've never dealt with a smartphone.
Right.
I don't know
Right.
anymore how to
Thank you.
order off a menu.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
That's right.
It's deeper than just can I get a job. It's also can
That's
I.
right. Unfortunately, we've got to wrap it there, regrettably. It's a big subject. Later this hour, I'll ask these line panelists what they think about this week's announcement about the superintendent of Albuquerque Public Schools.